Okay, so I've been taking some public speaking lessons from Joe Biden, and I was able to get a copy of some of his notes, cue cards. You know, when you do public speaking, sometimes you have cue cards, you have little index cards that you read from. So I think I'm on to something here, so I want to run this by you guys to see if this is going to work. So here are a few suggestions from Joe Biden. Number one, hit record. Number two, take a seat. Okay. Number three, look at camera. Oh, okay. Number four, say a few words. And then lastly, according to Joe Biden, you only ask one person to comment. Well, there you have it, guys. The 5 tips of public speaking by Joe Biden. Every once in a while, I might make you laugh. So go ahead. Type in those comments right now. Welcome to another video, guys. I am in rare form tonight, just so you know. I'm excited to bring you part 2 of the 4 tiers of sustainment. And I just want to share with you tonight that this episode, I'm going to get into a little bit of my background, something that I don't normally do on the Survival Lust Experiment. I'm going to share some of my history, some of my backstory with you, some of my upbringings, and to sort of bring in a little bit of context to what makes me so passionate about trying to tell people, don't die. That's right. So, as I share with you in part 1 of this series, this is indeed my life's work. And here in part 2, we have entitled tonight's video, are you ready? The Prepper's Prayer. That's right, I thought of that all by myself. I'm going to give you the biblical foundation. That is indeed God's written word that gives us encouragement and balance, that no matter our plight, if we keep our eyes on Him, not Joe Biden, if we make our path straight, He will indeed help us to come out on the other side of SHTF. In videos past, I have shared with my audience, you faithful people out there who I love, adore, and respect. I don't say that enough, but I do appreciate you. And you keep me going. You do. You keep me motivated. And, well, actually, Mountain Dew keeps me motivated. But my family. And I take this on as a ministry, as I said in the past. I don't know how long this video is going to be. That probably should be a disclaimer at the beginning of every video, because you know that I don't follow an algorithm or any kind of paradigm that YouTube tells us that we should have. This is a passion of mine to share survival training and preparedness with you. And we're going to take a very intensive look tonight at the Prepper's Prayer, the biblical mandate of prepping, and how we as Christians, and those of you that are truth-seeking, those of you that are like right on the fence, you're like, man, I don't know. That whole believing in Jesus Christ thing, that's a little freaky to me. I don't know if I should jump into the pool. Yeah, come on in. The water's fine. I assure you. Right? January the 17th, 1985. I had never heard the gospel in my entire life. Never been to a church, right? And I am far from religious, guys. I am. I'm a normal person. I really am. Well, maybe not normal, but you get my point. Yeah, God is great all the time. He has done so much for me in my life. I could spend a whole nother channel and episode on sharing with you the wonderful things that the Lord has done for me. So what I want to do as a survival school instructor is I want to share some biblical principles with you to give you encouragement, because oftentimes we find that the subject of SHTF, well, how do I say this? It's just doggone depressing, isn't it? It's all doom and gloom, and the world's going to come to an end, and we need to run. It's like Joe versus the volcano, right? Maybe we should offer up a sacrifice. No, don't do that. I am encouraged. I am strengthened in spite of where we're at in 2023. Yeah. I was telling Mountain Dew last week, we all have sort of ebbs and flows in our walk, don't we? And I would be less than truthful with you if I didn't share some transparency with you from time to time. I hope that's permissible. Yeah, but last week was kind of rough for me. I was discouraged. I'm not going to say depressed, but I was certainly defeated in my spirit. And I had to go to God, and I needed to receive some encouragement because of all of the bad stuff that was going on last week. It was really bumming me out. So thank goodness I had an energized weekend. It's Monday. We're back at it again. The sun's out. We've been having a lot of rain. My garden's looking good, by the way. I got to give Mountain Dew props for that. So I want to share just a few passages with you out of the New Testament that gives you promise and principle. That is God's responsibility. Let me say that again. It is God's responsibility, not survival lust. Breathe easy there, guys. To feed us and to clothe us, and not the U.S. government or the government that you submit to. Maybe you're in Canada, maybe you're in New Zealand, maybe you're over there in Israel, maybe you're in Russia. Okay? It's not their job to feed and clothe you. So I want to begin tonight's lesson with just a few key verses, and then we're going to get into the 13 things that you need to build in your life skill set arsenal. This isn't acquisition, guys. This isn't kit and equipment. These are 13 skill sets that you need to develop as a survivalist. Right? Now, I shared with you that I was going to be giving you my life's work. Little did you know, when I told you that this was a master's level class, that I'm actually going to be sharing with you part of my master's thesis. When I was in the seminary, I wrote my master's thesis, and I'm going to be sharing part of that thesis with you tonight in this video. So we've got a jam-packed show. I do have a script. Those of you that saw part one, you noticed that I was diverting my attention. I tried to speak to you and share from my heart my experiences, but then again, I meditate on this. I spent a lot of time in meditation and preparing for this. And as a former pastor and evangelist and church planter, it was not common for me to spend 40 to 50 hours a week just on a 30-minute message. It was not uncommon at all. So I just want to share with you guys that while we are having sort of a relaxed conversation, you're going to find that if you measure the value of this content and the wisdom that I am trying to share with you, there's a lot of stuff here. And we're going to pack it in as fast as we possibly can. So I hope that you are comfortable. I hope that you have time to listen to this all the way through, because I don't feel like that breaking down complete topics in 20 lessons, we have a tendency not to go back to lesson 2, 3, or 4 or whatever. I like to just throw it all out there on the table in a smorgasbord or a buffet, ring your dinner bell, and just tell you guys to come on. And that's what we're going to do. So let me begin tonight with just a few key verses to encourage you as a prepper and a survivalist. And by the way, I want to welcome you new subscribers. I want to thank you for joining the Survival Lust experiment. Please come on in, take a look around. Everything here on the show is free. I answer emails. You can contact me directly. I'll be happy to answer any questions, any comments you have. Maybe you have a viewer video request, tag video that you want me to do. Maybe you want me to look at something that you're interested in. Maybe you've got a YouTube channel and you're like, hey, Survivalist, pop on over here. I'd love to get your critique and analysis on X, Y, and Z. I have done that in the past, absolutely. So please, let's have a conversation. Now, let's get into the Bible, right? I got mine right here. You should get one of these. This is a great book. Jesus told us in the Sermon on the Mount not to worry. That's a hard thing to do, especially when you've got Mr. Resident, what's his name, Zidon? Resident Zidon running things from the Command Central. Did you know that he spent 40% of his time at home? 40% of his time at home. That's where he's been. I'm not going to get on a rant with him tonight, but the Lord tells us not to worry. Here's what he said. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 25, he said, therefore, I say to you, do not worry about your life. That's easy for you to say, Lord. No, he's being serious. What will you eat? Or what will you drink? You know, in Argentina, the government just raised their interest rates to 97%. Their inflation rate is 109%. You heard me correctly. 109% inflation. Their interest rate is 97%. The Lord says, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body. What you will put on it is not your life more than food, and the body more than clothing. Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not more value than they? Which of you, by worrying, can add 1 cubit, that's the distance from here to here, to his stature? So why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And yet I say to you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like the one of these. Now if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? One more verse, and then we're going to get into the 4 tiers. This comes out of John chapter 10, verse 7. Then Jesus said to them, most assuredly I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. And all who ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. I underline that, and will find pasture. We're going to look at my master's thesis tonight in this series as we talk about the prepper's prayer, because we're going to take a really amazing look at the 23rd Psalm, right? I'm going to share those 6 verses with you, but before I do, I want to get into the 4 tiers. I'm going to throw the chart back up on the screen for us to look at, and all this stuff, of course, is already linked on my Google Drive. By the way, I did write the test for this video series. It will be uploaded at the conclusion of this video, along with the answer key. And I would encourage you to take it. And no matter how well you do, take it. It's good. It's a good outline, guys. It really is. It's sort of a summation of these 2 videos put together. And so there is a practical purpose there. I don't think that it's going to be a waste of time for you to at least go and look at this material, keep it by your side. For those of you that are just beginning your prepping journey, this is going to give you a great outline as you're trying to add meat to your bones and making proper application with your specific skill sets, your entry level, your novice level, your your location, all the things that we've talked about. What are your threat assessments? What's your self-sufficiency? What is your procurement going to look like, right? And we're going to look at all of that. Now, as we talk about the 4 tiers of sustainment, we notice that we're trying to address the 6 keys of survival. That's self-defense, shelter, survival clothing, sanitation, sustainability, and solace. Now, I want to play a little game with you. I want you to take some of your bug out bag items, just take 2 or 3 items out, and as we go over a closer definition of the 4 tiers of sustainment tonight in this video, I want you to see if you can take pieces and parts of your bug out kit and put them into the specific category of tier 1 through 4. So after you hear these definitions, I want you to do a little lab, just a little bit of experiment, and to see how well your stuff is fitting into this assessment level. Now keep in mind, your kit needs to go to the highest level that it possibly can. It may be applicable for tier 1 and 2, but would it possibly fit tier 3 or 4? So always try to place your kit in the highest possible tier level that you can, because that's going to give you the greatest sense of confidence in knowing that that is a great gear selection. So when you're done with your kit assessment, when you're done looking at your bug out bag, you want to try to have the vast majority of your stuff in the tier 3 and tier 4 section. Not everything is going to be tier 4, but a good balance and a good bulk of that, the life support system of that, specifically your fire kit and your water purification and your self-defense. I would say most definitely those 3 things will need to fit into tier 4, and maybe your sanitation, the hygiene stuff, the first aid stuff may not be tier 4, because obviously it is a consumable. It does have a shelf life. It is going to be exhausted in use, right? So it won't always fit into tier 4. So don't try to beat yourself up too badly if you can't get everything in your bag into tier 4. So let me help you understand some of these definitions. Tier 1, and I just sort of wrote down 1 or 2 sentences to help paint a mental picture in your mind as to what these categories are. Tier 1, the weather is fine, you're on foot, it's a day hike or a vacation, it's a commute to work. Some of you carry EDC, right? Some of you have get home bags in your vehicle, okay? A get home bag is tier 1, right? It's the weekend, and your plan is to come home by that evening or return to permanent shelter that night. Law and order. This is a key part to tier 1. Law and order is being followed. We have civil services. Your cell phone is working, and you can call 911. It's a walk in the park, and you know for a fact that the restaurants are open, and you're going to be eating dinner that night. Tier 2, the weather will shift because you are planning on spending the night in the woods. Okay? Remember, every time you move further away from the people that you know, permanent structure, motorized transportation, civil services, you're going to find yourself deeper into those tier levels. In tier 2, you're not at home. You're not at your job. In tier 2, you're in the woods. Okay? You plan on spending the night. Or maybe you're coming home and you've got to go through a remote area to get from your job to your home. Thus, your get home bag may have shelter. And that's a good assessment right there. Does my get home bag, does it have shelter in it? It could be just a mill bank, or excuse me, a 6 mil contractor garbage bag. You can stuff with leaves or grass and make a small mat and build you a little fire. I mean, that's shelter. Something to get you out of the rain and something to keep you warm. Right? It's a camping trip, a one-nighter. Civil services are still available, but cell coverage may be spotty. Navigation is not necessary, but it would be smart. But there is no need to build, craft, repair, or maintain. It is basically a car camping weekend. And this is probably Mountain Dew's favorite place to be. She loves Tier 2 because you still get to enjoy the glamping and the amenities of having a civilized lifestyle, but yet enjoying nature. We have a boat. We like to do boating in the summer. We go down to the lake. We have 3 lakes near us, and we like to go hang out on the beach down there on the lake, and then we usually do a beach trip to either to Florida or South Carolina every year. In fact, we're going to Florida this year. Very excited. We'll be down there and have a great time. And this is some of Mountain Dew's favorite places to be. And we'll do some of that Tier 2 stuff. We'll have some of that Tier 2 stuff with us when we're in those places, okay? Your supply is limited, but if you forgot something, you'll be able to run out and leave the campground or maybe go to the campground store. I know a lot of you guys that do KOA campgrounds, they usually have a little provision store or a little commissary that you can go in. Maybe you forgot ice, maybe you forgot sunblock, maybe you forgot bait. I don't know. I went into a campground a couple years ago, and it was not a 50 amp service. It was only a 30 amp service, and I forgot my 50 amp to 30 amp converter. It's basically what they call a dog bone because I have an RV. And I went down to the camp store there, and sure enough, they had a 4-way that I could use. And yeah, I was thankful that I had that. So you don't have to leave the campground. You can get that stuff there. Tier 3. This is where it's going to get a little bit higher, elevated in your skill set and your confidence level. And you're going to step outside of your comfort level, right? You're on a through hike. Think primitive backpacking trip. And maybe you're just doing dispersed camping. Maybe you don't have a destination in mind. Maybe you're not covering a waypoint. Maybe you're just doing dispersed camping. One of my favorite things to do is dispersed camping. Dispersed camping is stealth camping. We use a lot of these terms on YouTube, and sometimes we don't define our terms, but I'll give you my definition of what I think dispersed camping means for me. Dispersed camping means that I have to go to a place, build temporary shelter, or bring shelter with me, and then procure my own water. And typically, I am observing stealth practices. Okay, maybe I build a Dakota fire pit. Maybe I'm not leaving a trace, or maybe I'm not leaving a trail. Maybe no one can track me. These are great exercises when you're trying to practice your bug out strategies, is to take it up to Tier 3. Maybe I'm going to a place where there's no cell phone coverage. That automatically puts you in Tier 3, by the way. If you're going to a place that doesn't have cell coverage, you're already in Tier 3. All right? Your supply is limited for a specific duration, but you're covered. You got some stuff with you. Your risk for failure is elevated, but water purification and fire making is a must. There is no electricity. We go to 4 campgrounds in our regional area. They're all primitive or dispersed camping campgrounds, and they don't have services. No electricity, none of that stuff. They do have one wellhead where you can go and collect your own water. You can go. You don't have to go down to the creek. They do have a wellhead, a shallow well there, but typically that's all they're going to have. There's no other services there, not even cell coverage, right? Your ability to repair may be necessary. So if something breaks, or if you forgot something, you may have to improvise. How many of you have ever brought your big old, condominium tent with you and you forgot to bring the hammer? So what do? You go out in the woods and you get a big old stick, or maybe you find a rock and you're pounding those stakes in with a rock. You see, there you go, guys. That's a great example of being in a Tier 3 situation and having to procure, having to craft, repair, and maintain. That improvising is challenging your skill set. Just simple little things like that. right? Your focus is on your ability to stay alive. Now, you're maybe not in a civil disobedience, okay? You still have law and order, but you're out there, okay? You're out there. You might hear a bear come into your camp, or maybe even a rabid raccoon, right? You have to stay alive, which means you got to stay warm and dry, you got to stay fed and hydrated. Your skill set must make up for any weaknesses that are in your kit. So whatever you brought with you, if something's lacking, okay, for guys, I'm talking to you guys, your wives are going to look at you and go, honey, we forgot this, this, and this. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry, babe. I got this covered. And you run over there and you whip out your Swiss Army knife and you whittle it up and there you go. There's your spoon. Okay? See, these are great things to do. And it's going to build confidence. It's going to help you gain the skill set that you need. So all this, Tier 1, 2, and 3 are great exercises for you to put yourself into before you get into Tier 4. I don't recommend going into Tier 4 unless you absolutely have to. Tier 4 is SHTF. Tier 4 is there's no civil services. We are in a rule without a... we're in a world without rule of law, excuse me. There's no cops. There's no fire. There's no ambulance. Everyone's trying to get your stuff. So here you go, Tier 4. You are homeless. You are invisible. You'll die in 3 days if you don't have the skill set and the proper kit, because where you are going in the wilderness, it is officially SHTF Day. You better have all 4 seasons covered. You better know how to craft, navigate, forage, hunt, fish, build, maintain, and defend. Like I said before, your enemies are man, starvation, beast, dehydration, injury, as well as exposure. Remember those 6 threats that we talked about in Part 1. Now, we're probably going to do one more video in this series because I've got to get to the urban SHTF video. I've already got the script written for that. That's going to be a super fun video, by the way. I'm very excited about that one. A little gratuitous plug. Urban SHTF. We're going to have a lot of fun with that video. But we're going to take my bags that I shared with you in Part 1, my camping bag, which, by the way, that bag would work great for Tier 4. I would definitely classify that Falkraven Kajka 85. Mountain Dew has the 65. I have the 85 liter. Those are great bug out bags. They're bomb proof. Yes, they're $400. But I'll give you a little secret. Shh, can you keep a secret? When you're on a website and you're about to put something in your cart, don't order it. Wait. Subscribe to the website. Let them send you an email. You'd be amazed. A lot of these places will send you a 10% discount code just for subscribing to their website. I do it all the time. I always either get free shipping or at least 10% off. My last bag that I just bought, that Falkraven Kajka 85 liter bag with tax, I think it came out to $415 with shipping and yada yada yada. I got 20% off that just for doing that little trick. So don't forget that. All right? But I'm going to take parts of my bag and we're going to put them out and I'm going to show you what these things are, and I'll let you guys try to guess in your mind. You don't have to type it in the comments. But I want you guys to try to guess what categories these pieces of kit will fit in. Now that you have this Tier 1 through 4 compartmentalized in your mind, okay? Remember, the big distinction between Tier 1, 2, and 3 and 4 is that there is no civil service in Tier 4. That's probably the biggest takeaway, all right? So, like I said, we won't cover everything in the next video, but we'll drill down. In fact, I've already done some of it. I've already given you Tier 4 on water purification and my fire kit. and survival clothing, now that I think about it. So if you've missed any of those videos, I'll link the titles of those videos. Maybe I'll throw some cards up. But I'll link the titles of those videos in the description so that you can get an example of how Survivalist builds his Tier 4 system when it comes to water purification, fire making, as well as survival clothing. All right? I also covered Solace. I sure did. I didn't cover everything in Solace, but I also covered Solace now that I think about it. Go to the homepage. Everything's already there. It's under the 6 Keys playlist. You'll find it all there. That's a better way to go there. Now, I'm going to show what you need, and then perhaps I'll even hyperlink it too. I'll even hyperlink some of this kit for you so that you can grab this stuff while it's still available. All right? So, no matter your adventure or situation, you're going to have the foundational knowledge of these tiers, and you'll know exactly how to load out your survival system. So no matter whether you're building EDC, Get Home, maybe you're building a stay put system. You know, back in the day, Mountain Dew used to work at an actual physical location. She had a stay put system in her car. I put it in her trunk. I built her a stay put bag. And it was a very unique system, but it was designed in case she could not leave her job and she had to hunker down there for safety. So I put a kit in that was specifically designed. One of the things, I'll give you a little clue. One of the things was a life straw. And she said, "Why are you giving me a life straw? I'm at work." I said, "Well, what if you have to drink out of the toilet?" She goes, "I'm not drinking out of the toilet." You could, though. You could with a life straw. Now, I recommend taking the lid off of the toilet seat and drinking out of the bowl. But a lot of the commercial businesses that you're at, they have commercial toilets. So you don't have a choice. Okay? Let me tell you something. If I was in a survival situation, I would most certainly drink out of the toilet. Okay, now that's not a personal recommendation because I cannot give you, legally, I cannot give you medical advice on YouTube. I'm telling you what I would do. So please do not ever take anything that I'm saying as advice. All right? Let's see where we're at. So, like I said, whether we're building EDC, Stay Put, Get Home, Bug Out, Inch Kit, wherever you're at, these strategies will revolutionize your approach. And moreover, you will be able to filter out gear review videos in real time because immediately when you look at these pieces of kit, you will know exactly what tier level that kit falls into. So remember, guys, we are not collecting kit and gear. We are answering life-saving questions. All right? Now, I think I'm going to skip this paragraph because I don't want this video to get too long, and I want to get to the meat and the potatoes, right? I still got a lot of meat to cover here. So, SILS method. That's an acronym, and that's on the slide in the concentric circle that I gave you. Let's talk about that SILS method because I'm giving you definitions, succinct definitions, qualifiers, if you will, that help you compartmentalize what these tiers are. So remember SILS, it's an acronym. It's Tier 1 is convenience, rule of law, permanent shelter, motorized transportation. Tier 2, inconvenience, natural and man-made threats, temporary shelter, and limited services. Tier 3, limited risk for failure, but not death. Limited supplies, extended duration, resources must be collected, like water. Okay, hopefully you brought some food with you. Tier 4 is skill set dependent. So remember the SILS, convenient, inconvenient, limited risk, and then lastly, skill set dependent. Procurement is necessary, failure is not an option, and you are in a death-defying situation. Crafting, maintaining, and repair is necessary. All right? Now, as I said earlier in this video, when you're looking at your kit, try to analyze your kit into the highest category that you possibly can. All right? Now, let's dig deeper. I'm going to take a drink here. You know, I gave up sweet tea 2 years ago. And being from the South, I mean, sweet tea's a rite of passage if you want to call yourself a Southerner. If you don't drink sweet tea and you're from the South, we need to check your papers. But I said, you know what? I'm at that point where I want to start thinking about getting rid of sugar in my diet. So 2 years ago, I made the decision to stop drinking sweet tea. And I only drink unsweetened tea. I want to tell you something. It took about 2 months for me to actually get used to it, but I love it now. I absolutely love unsweet tea. Now, we have to make it ourselves, and I couldn't tell you how to make it. That's sort of Mountain Dew's forte. But there's certain places that we go, and they bring me unsweet tea, and it tastes rancid. I think it's because it sits in their container and nobody drinks it. I don't know. It could be a guess. You know how when tea gets sour? That's how I liken it to. But I just absolutely love, and I drink the green tea and the black tea. That's the best for you. All right, so let's dig deeper into Tier 4. For me, that is the goal of this channel. There are plenty of storm chasers and hurricane preppers out there, and I'm sure they all do an excellent job on teaching you how to check your flashlight batteries, fill your bathtub with water, and board up all your windows and doors. Right? In fact, you just turn on the Weather Channel anytime there's a dark cloud out there, and they'll tell you to go look at your flashlight batteries. Okay, run! Go get bread and milk! Never understood why we needed bread and milk. But Tier 4, we're at a whole different level. We're in a master's class. And there are many courses that you can take that will help you gain these skills. And I have taken them. Okay? SEER School's one of them. I told you I was going to get personal with you tonight, and you were going to get a little bit of a peek as to my upbringing and my background. So I'm going to share some of this with you as an encouragement. But you can go to a SEER School class. You can take a Sigma 3 class. I'm going to tell you something right now. These are all wonderful courses in schools. I absolutely advocate hands-on training, but you're going to spend $5,000 on those classes. Tonight, I'm giving you that information for free. Now, granted, it's not hands-on, but I think if you take this material that I'm giving you and you apply the strategies and the science behind what I'm teaching you, obviously you're smart enough to watch this video. You're smart enough to be concerned about prepping and survival. So I absolutely feel confident, and also knowing that, what did God tell us in John chapter 10? He said He would lead us to those pastures, right? What if, by the inspiration of God, that He's led you here, this could be a pasture in your life, guys. It really could. Now, I've had people ask me, hey, Survivalist, what is your background? I say this with humility. I don't want this to come across as me sounding arrogant or braggadocious or I'm the dude. I think that was another guy. I'm not the dude. The Big Lebowski. But let me just share some of the details of my life, which kind of brings me to the culmination of where I'm at now with this ministry, this channel, and where I've been for over 40 years of my life. As an adult, I would say the last 40 years collectively, I have been focused exclusively on teaching life skills. Not how to get a better job, not how to heal warts or cure migraines, but no, how to keep you alive based on the 6 keys. The 6 keys of survival is it's my information, okay? And I don't want to say it's plagiarized or it's unique, but there are certain topics and concepts out there like self-defense. I mean, you can't say you invented self-defense, no. But I wrote the outline to the 6 keys of survival 8 years ago. And I have videos, old videos that I have on the channel, and they're all hidden in private, but I could upload these to show you that I've been talking about the 6 keys to survival for over 8 years. And obviously it's developed, it's gotten better, it's sort of marinated, it's matriculated into the fruit salad that it is right now. And I'm giving you the cream of the crop. I mean, this is an abundant amount of material that I'm giving you. But this all comes from my upbringing and the way that I was raised. So I wrote down some information. I want to share this information with you as I throw up an inset video for you to watch while I am sharing the Survival Lust bio with you. I grew up in the backwoods of Vermont and lived in a log cabin. Was raised by my grandfather, who was a logger, while my dad was aboard ship in the Navy at sea. At just 7 years old, we had no running water and only an outdoor toilet. We had to split wood for cooking and heating. My father was one of the very first Navy survival school instructors in Rangeley, Maine during the early 60s and taught SEER School, which of course I attended his intensive and personal course my entire life. My father and I, along with my uncle, who was also a logger from Vermont, we lived in the wilderness of Colorado in 1997 for 6 months, for an extended period of time, in a Tier 3 situation. My uncle spent an extended duration of his life, 5 years, living in the wild, and he brought much knowledge to the table as it pertained to hunting and trapping. I became an Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts. I was the director of a Christian organization called Royal Ambassadors from my church at First Baptist Church, Woodstock, Georgia, back in the mid-'80s. Taught hundreds of boys how to survive in bushcraft. I spent 5 years in college starving to death and learned how to grow a garden. Later in life, I moved to the desert of Arizona, where I really honed my bushcraft and survival skills in Sycamore Canyon, perfecting these 13 skills and completing lone wolf strategies. Since moving to the Smoky Mountains in 2016, I have crafted a homestead lifestyle, and we grow a lot of our own food, including raising chickens and soon goats. We hunt for our own meat. I started deer hunting around 18 years old. I've backpacked more miles and wore out more pairs of Merrell shoes than I can count, which, by the way, are not bug-out shoes. I was a missionary in Moldova and Romania, and later my oldest daughter became one in Hungary. I am a Native American Indian of the Iroquois tribe. My mother, who is full-blooded, lives on a reservation. And when I did my vision quest in Arizona for 2 years, that is when I finally mastered the art of sustainment. For over 40 years, I have been focused on this subject matter. My family lives this lifestyle. We focus on urban OPSEC, and I teach handgun classes, firearms training. I am a general contractor by trade and can engineer and construct just about anything you could want or need. Think Swiss Family Robinson. I became homeless at 15 years old after a tiff with being raised by my father, who I dubbed the Great Santini, and got sick and tired of being pushed around by my drill instructor father. So he kicked me out and threw my ditty bag on the front lawn at 15 years old. And I had to grow up in the streets of New Orleans, Louisiana, and I learned for 4 years without an education, without a house, without a car, on how to survive on the streets. It was that experience that brought me to God, and I went back and finished my GED and eventually college and seminary and became a pastor for many, many years. In 1997, I walked away from organized religion because I got tired of playing religion with the status quo of the SBC. And so that is my background. I won't bore you with my military background or my mechanical background or my church planting background, but I have experienced a valued understanding and profound love for God as a result of my Damascus Road conversion. So you see, guys, it's out of my personal testimony that I feel like that God has afforded me, He has blessed me with not only taking me through these experiences, but He's tested my steel. He's hardened my steel. And it's through this book right here, the knowledge and the encouragement that I have received from this book, that has given me the strength and the confidence to be able to deal with any situation that life throws us. Remember, in the first part, I talked about the importance of self-sufficiency. And that was understanding that we're always going to deal with problems. That life indeed is nothing but one giant lesson in problem solving. So I was studying my Bible the other day in Matthew chapter 6 verse 11, and the Lord showed me something, and I had to get out my Greek lexicon and do a word study on this. But I want to share as we wrap up this video. We've only got a few minutes left. I'm going to share the 13 skill sets with you. I'm going to share the 6 characters and attributes of God's life and provision in your life as we close out this series. But in Matthew chapter 6 verse 11, the Bible says, "Give us this day our daily bread." We all know that as the Lord's Prayer. Many of you probably repeat it before you eat your meal. The word day or daily in the Greek is the word episuon, meaning day or daily. And it translates daily for the coming day for sustenance. It is the only time in the New Testament that word is used. Literally, God is wanting us to trust Him for His unique demands of the coming day. Now, whether you're a Christian or whether you're a secularist, it doesn't matter. But what should encourage you, because God is not a respecter of persons, it doesn't matter if you're lost or saved. You're still God's creature. You're still one of God's children. He still has a promise to you. And when you wrap your mind around that understanding that it is God that we should be placing our focus on, I want to bring your attention back to the 23rd Psalm. This is only a small section. My master's thesis was 26 pages long. But I just want to share just a small section of that, and then we'll get into the 13 life skills. But I'd always thought of Matthew chapter 6 verse 11 and that passage as a food for the belly, right? But I believe if we look closer in the holistic interpretation of the Word of God, both from the New Testament and the Old Testament, that Jesus is sharing that faith and trust in God is paramount to everything in life, not just food. In Tier 4, you're going to have to master skill sets. One of those skill sets that you're going to have to master, and I'm just going to say this unapologetically, this is crucial, this is pivotal, this is foundation, this is the cornerstone to surviving SHTF. If you don't hear anything else I say in these 2 series, or in these 2 videos, if you don't hear anything else I say, please hear this. It is absolutely paramount that you trust God. That is a life skill that you're going to have to develop. You're going to have to trust God. Deep and profound trust in God. Not just a head knowledge of His existence, but a genuine walk with Him, whereby you actually talk and you seek His guidance, His instruction. He'll talk to you. Oh, yes, He will. He got my attention. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I was not a religious person. And He got my attention real quick. The names of God in Psalm 23 will absolutely blow your mind. And I want to share those with you. And I wrote them down. But I want to share the 23rd Psalm. The Bible says in verse 1, "The Lord is my shepherd." That is a literal translation of one of the names of God. And that name for God in verse 1, the Lord is my shepherd. Remember in John chapter 10, I was talking about how Jesus tells us that He is the door to the sheep gate. When a shepherd used to tend his flock at night, he would corral them in, he would fence them in a little enclosed pen, and there was no door. It was just a little wooden fence. And sometimes he would have to bushcraft that fence if he was out in a pasture somewhere, because he'd have to migrate his flock from pasture to pasture. And he would build a temporary shelter wall, a structure wall, and there would be no door. The shepherd would literally lay in the threshold of that door so that two things could not happen. A, the sheep could not escape and enter into a perilous situation, nor could the enemy encroach and devour the sheep, because they had to come through the shepherd. When Psalm 23 verse 1 tells you and I that the Lord is our shepherd, literally that word means Jehovah Ra. He is the good shepherd. I shall not want. Verse 2. Jehovah Jireh. I shall not want. That means he is our provider. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He is Jehovah Shalom. The Lord is peace. Remember, we were talking about how in SHTF we're going to be encountering stressful moments in our life. We talk about the importance of the psychology of survival. From the Christian vernacular, that psychology of survival is resting in the knowledge that Jehovah Shalom can bring you peace. Verse 3, he restoreth my soul. He is Jehovah Rapha, meaning that he is our healer. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. That is Jehovah Tsidkenu. That means the Lord is righteousness. Righteousness. What is righteousness? I don't want to get too far carried away into my thesis, but I get excited when I think about this. Righteousness. When the Lord tells you that he is righteousness, let me tell you what that means. Without any reservation, there is nothing that God can do that is wrong. And when you put that in the context that no matter what situation you find yourself in, calamity, peril, danger, death, disease, distraught, whatever situation you're in, if you recognize that God is in charge of your life, that righteousness will lead you. It will guide you. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. He is my Jehovah Shammah. The Lord is present. You know, as a lone wolf, I spent 2 years living in the wilderness of of Arizona, as you saw in that video. I was never alone. I mean, I was by myself, but I was never alone. The Lord is present. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. People say, survivalists, were you worried about rattlesnakes? Were you worried about mountain lions? Were you worried about, vagabonds? Were you worried about crazy people? No. I slept like a baby every single night. The Lord is my help. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. That's a shepherd analogy, the rod and the staff. That is Jehovah Ezer. Verse 5. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. That is Jehovah Nisi. The Lord, my standard of victory. You know, people say you can walk in confidence. You can walk in strength. You can walk in encouragement. Yeah, you can turn on CNN and Fox News tomorrow and you're going to get pretty doggone depressed. But if you understand the psalmist, the prepper's prayer, it's going to give you hope. It really is. Thou anointest my head with oil, sustenance, sustainment, sanitation, solace. You see how all this is all fitting in? Shelter. My cup runneth over. He is Jehovah manna. That Hebrew word manna was literally the bread that God gave the children of Israel under the leadership of Moses when they were walking through the wilderness of Sinai. The Lord is my portion. That was a daily portion. It came up from the ground and it only lasted until the morning was over, and then it went away. A play on the Lord's Prayer. Give us today our daily sustenance for the coming day. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me some of the days of my life. That's not what it says, is it? Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all of the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. He is Jehovah Shalek. That is, the Lord is my inheritance. As sons and daughters of a king, we have an inheritance. In John chapter 14, he talks about that he would go and prepare a place for us. We have an inheritance with him. I want to give you these last 12 skill sets that you're going to have to master. I will annotate this in the description of this video so that you can go back and reference this and make notes on this, on how you can master these skill sets by practicing and focusing on this, and make it a monthly habit. Spend 2 or 3 hours a month developing these skill sets. This is how I obtained the level of training and understanding that I have. Was understanding these 13 principles. But I had to check the first box. I had to get the first one right, because if I didn't have that one right, the rest of this would be in my own strength and power and my own fragility and weakness, and it wouldn't have worked. Shelter making, number 2, and selecting proper location. You can study the Bliss method. This is a very cheap manual. This is the Air Force manual, pamphlet 64-5. You can find it on any website. It's like $7.50. I'll link it in the description. You can buy it on Amazon if they don't have it. I think it's like 12 bucks. This is the greatest survival manual I've ever read in my life. Study the Bliss method of building shelter and selecting shelter location. That's one whole skill set that you better understand in SHTF. Number 3, navigation. Along with weather prediction, being able to look at the cloud formations and knowing what a cumulonimbus cloud is. Understanding sailor's delight. Number 4, water procurement. It's also discussed in this pamphlet. You can find water in the desert. Hunting, which will be including trapping, butchering, tanning. I have an entire playlist on my channel dedicated to nothing but hunting. Number 6, fishing, both passive and active. How do you catch fish, you ask? In the mouth, right? Fishing, huge part of building a survival strategy. Learn how to fish, guys. Get you passive and active systems. Number 7, first aid and herbal remedies. In an upcoming video, I will be showing you my complete first aid tier 4 system. Even though some of it is consumables, it's still a very decent kit. And I feel very confident in that kit. Taking me through tier 4. I'm going to show you. I even have sutures, needles. I have surgery. I have equipment in this trauma kit. I'm going to show you that. Understanding that life skill has to be understood. Get you the surgery manual. The Army puts out a great manual called the surgery manual. I'll link that. Number 8, moving, hoisting, lifting, otherwise known as conveying. Tools like pulleys, block and tackle, come-alongs, using leverage and cant hooks. Growing up in the mountains as a young kid. I was born in Florida, but we got transferred up to Maine when my dad became a survival school instructor up in Rangeley in the 60s. You know, growing up on a mountain, we had to move massive logs, and we learned how to use cant hooks and block and tackle. I mean, my grandfather was a logger with a mule. We grew up living like frontiersmen. Fire making, already presented that video to you. Gardening, foraging, and of course what plants contain what specific nutrients. Also learning how to collect and make maple syrup. And I didn't do it this year, I ran out of time, but if Lord wills and we get through next March and April, I'll show you how to make maple syrup. We did it when I was a kid. It's super easy to make maple syrup, but you got to do it in March and April. That's the time of year to make maple syrup. 11, mechanical engineering. This would include boat building, learning how to make a dugout, a simple raft, how to lash. I mean, did y'all see, what was the movie with Tom Hanks, Wilson? I mean, he made a raft. Do you know how to make a raft? Can you make a dugout canoe? Do you have mechanical engineering skills, tool crafting, lashing, maintenance, learning how to make fire heated pots out of clay, knowing where to find that clay? 12, food storing and preservation. This would include smoking, curing, canning, and building a root cellar. My uncle lived 5 years in the wilderness of Vermont and did not have refrigeration, but he had a root cellar. If you go and study these people that live up in Alaska, even in the summer months, they don't have a refrigeration. They build in the below the permafrost, they dig down and they build root cellars and they cover it with moss. And it keeps their meat cool so that bacteria doesn't get in and spoil the meat and turn it rancid. They smoke fish. They cure their meat. It's not just salt, because once again, salt is it's a commodity. It's a consumable, and you're going to run out of salt. So you need to learn other methods of food preservation. And then lastly, self-defense. And that's not just learning how to go bang bang. You know my principle. If you've been following the channel, you know my principle. It's all about understanding camouflage, concealment, scouting, and tracking. That, to me, is self-defense. Avoiding confrontation, recognizing and dealing with how to become gray man. And we're going to talk in great lengths when we get to the Urban SHT video on understanding tracking, scouting, and concealment. Because living in New Orleans, I can tell you, being robbed at gunpoint, when they jump out in the Desiree projects, or Desire projects, should I say, they're no longer there, they tore them down, but I lived back there in the 80s when they used to be there, and that was worse than the Boston projects called the Commons up there in New England. And I was robbed at gunpoint, walking down Dowman Road, 44 stuck in my chest. Yes, in a survival situation, you're going to have to learn how to become good at scouting and tracking and staying concealed. Guys, I hope this information does you a wealth of good. Please excuse anything that I failed to cover. Please add your comments. Please encourage anyone on this series with your knowledge base. This is a dialogue. This is a consortium of people that we feel like, as a group, as a collective, that we all have been called by God. We all have certain strengths. We all have talents, and we all have something to share. Because I'm going to tell you something. Humanity is amazing. Till next time, be safe.